Welcome back to the pandemic mini-series of hostelmanager.com. I'm Jimmy Black with the Hostel Road Trip Podcast, here with Bobby Dyer from IHH Hostels.
Hello.
And Sydney from the 11th Avenue Hostel in the heart of downtown Denver.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we've got a great episode here planned with you today because you've got a wealth of experience despite your young age. And you've got your hands in a lot of pots in the industry. I've always liked that about you. You got a lot going on, so you got a lot of interesting stuff you can give us updates on. One of the bigger ones, and I'll give it towards the end here to highlight, with the North American Hostel Association and the formation of that NAHA. And we'll go over more of the details of that towards the end. But tell us a bit more about your situation in the current moment with the pandemic in the city of Denver. We haven't heard from anyone on the show yet from your area. What's going on in Denver? What's it like over there?
So Denver is one of the hot spots in the U.S. for the coronavirus. So the city has adopted some pretty major restrictions, pretty major shelter-in-place guidelines. Because Denver is a pretty outdoor city, it's really interesting to watch. People are still walking their dogs and running. I've seen more people running than I ever have in my entire life living here. But other than that, there's pretty strict restrictions. Everything's closed. Lodging is not required to close, but many have, which is hard to see. We have remained open, thankfully. And then, we saw a very quick reversal of our travelers. So from business travelers, they were the first to cancel, and then leisure travelers followed right after that. And so we very quickly flipped our model to long-term stays. And by long-term, I mean week to week. So we don't do any monthly leases or anything like that, to give us flexibility, because we don't know how long this is going to go on, how long people are going to be scared to travel.
Yeah.
We closed all community areas in the hostel to eliminate cross-contamination possibility. And then we also which is so different, we're telling people not to travel, not to meet new people, not to be social, really trying to enforce that social distancing safety protocol and make sure everyone's safe. So those are kind of the steps we took. We're really fortunate because we have a lot of private rooms in the hostel that we were able to very quickly switch that model. Some of our larger dorm rooms, we were able to switch to private rooms basically overnight. We had our maintenance team come in and flip all beds and things like that, so that everything is private. And yeah, that was our immediate reaction, to just try and combat this as much as possible.
You hit on a lot of great points there right off the bat, though, to stay creative with your facility, even though it is the exact opposite of our model. We're social immersion, this is social distancing. So you got to highlight the private room, go with the weekly stays, but avoid the monthly tenancy, situation there. And it's also very conducive to both sides. The guest doesn't know what's going on in the future anymore than you do. So the weekly thing has worked out very well for us as well.
I think
your website had a very nice thing of right on one of your top tip cues is a COVID-19, what's going on. I think that's such a good tip for other hostels. Of a lot of people are very curious about how the industry is going to respond, and it's a good opportunity to dictate that on our own terms, as compared to let that be described outside the box, or let that situation be handled elsewhere. So I think that's a very good tip that people can take from the 11th Avenue Hostel, of making that own separate type of announcement of how you're handling it, what the guidelines are, what the precautions you're taking are. It's really good in that situation.
Yes, I'm a firm believer in terms of marketing and communications to set people's expectations and set them early. When you draw the boundaries, you create your own playing field versus having people not be able to find you if they're looking for your information, or find bad information, misled. I mean, you never want your customers or potential customers to feel that way. So what I would say, we a few years ago went through a huge process of rebuilding all of our online presence, our website, everything like that, so we could manage it daily. So at the drop of the hat, if something happens, we can hop on our website, we can hop on our Google business page and make sure everything's updated and consistent. And I think a lot of hostel owners don't have that functionality. They've built their website once and they've left it. And this is a great time to, when you have a little extra time, look into some of those services that allow you to manage your own website. So you can put that resource out and say like, hey, this is the situation in Denver, or San Diego, or, Portland, so that if someone is coming to your page, they're not confused, or they're not reaching out and not receiving any response, because they're clearly looking, so you might as well engage with them as much as you can.
Yeah, I've seen, a lot of people want to know whether you're open or not. Some people are open, some people aren't open. So just being clear early on your website whether if you are open or if you have limited hours or if things change. So
yeah, especially and translating that too to Facebook and Instagram as well, if you have those platforms, just making a very clear post that says we are open.
Yeah.
Just that, so that if somebody's on your page and they're not necessarily reading through everything, they just see that big old block or something like that right away. Because the first thing they're going to try to do is maybe go to your website, and then if they don't find anything there, they might check your Facebook, maybe your Instagram, and it'll kind of trickle down from there. So yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, and the expectations thing is so important too, because if you are open and they do come, you could be, good at letting them know that announcement, but not letting them know that a lot of things have changed in your model. Like we would have a lot of group meals at our locations, which would be the worst thing to do right now. Get 30 or 40 people together to break bread,
right?
Disaster, and then go all over the world. So for those reasons of avoiding gross negligence, like, well, no, we can't have the group meals anymore. And if you get ahead of that and establish for the reasoning of why it's for their own safety, for everyone's safety, then everyone understands. But if they get blindsided and they're expecting a meal, they're going to be upset. So
absolutely,
so important on the expectations. Now, you've got a lot of experience outside of just hostel operations within the association business. And before we get into NAHA, which is very exciting, tell us a bit about the Colorado Hostel Collective, because I've always been interested in this. When someone tries to form the national level one, I've always seen it kind of revert back to the state level one, or more of the city one. That seems to work more in a more micro sense. But how did the Colorado Hostel Collective get started? How's that going?
Yeah, well, the Colorado Hostel Collective was started 2 years ago by myself and the manager of Ember Hostel here. Her name's Thea. She's amazing. Ember's owned by Drifter Jack's Hostel. So Andy, you're familiar with him. They're great.
Yeah.
And so I had this vision, because hostels are a very small part of the hospitality market overall in the United States. I've always found myself kind of bumping up against a wall when I would approach our tourism bureau or the lodging association about anything. They felt like they would just kind of make the statement that, oh, it's a hostel. Even though it's a hostel, it should function just like all these other hotels and has the same needs, which is not the case. And we're definitely the largest hostel in Colorado. So we had that clout sort of going for us, but we needed a stronger base to bring people together and advocate for hostels at a legislative level, and also just to travelers, and say like, this is a really great opportunity in Colorado. There's 26 hostels in Colorado. Wow. We have 13 members in the hostel, so half of them are members, which is great. And so we just got together and started calling people, cold calling them and saying, hey, we want to build this collective to serve as a resource for owners and managers to, bring them together. We have a gathering once a year in October where everyone comes together. It's totally free. And we just share resources and talk about the industry. And then throughout the year, we do internal communications, so providing resources for owners to better their businesses with everything from like marketing to guest relations to working through the civic system, to then we do quarterly customer emails. So we data mine all of the businesses' emails, all of our members' guest emails, and we will target them with specific messaging, like escape to the mountains, like go see the aspen trees, or hey, ski season's coming. Have you thought about staying at the bunkhouse in Vail, or something like that? So it's just been a great, very uplifting group where we all know we have the same idea, which is promoting experiential travel, and we can all do that together. And it's opened some really cool doors for us, and just created the coolest group of friends too.
Yeah.
I mean, people we can call up and be like, what the heck are you doing right now?
Yeah. Having a support system, hostels are, like you're saying, so unique. And we experienced that a few years ago at we went to the American Hostel Conference, and you really got to meet all the other hostel owners in America. Being able to get on a closer level, be friends, and ask for help and ideas is such a great resource, and it's so cool to see it developing. And definitely inspirational what you've done out there in Colorado.
I'm definitely have been following that, as I saw that start up as a few other things were in motion that were trying to go on more of a national level, and I was very interested to see how yours and then another state, New Hampshire, did it, and it's going very well. So I think it's cool to see that kind of regional or state type of operation go down and see it go very well. And I could see how the experience would be fun. Like, I would look forward to having an annual meeting or quarterly mixer, and moving around to different people's hostels to host it. That's just a lot of fun. We always enjoy it. So to be able to do it in a more local, more frequent experience is awesome. But
it also feels more tangible too, right? Like, if I want to go up and ski for the weekend, I have 3 hostel owners I can call and be like, hey, I'm going to come to your hostel this weekend. Like, are you going to be around? It builds this really cool community because we're already existing in the state. Like, we might as well all exist together. And when you can start on that state level, it's a little easier to understand everyone's needs and desires, because every state, every business is different. So if you can start small and scale up, I think that's a wise thing to do.
And that leads to my next question of, because you're taking on the next challenge after this now with NAHA, as I love the state model and see how it works, because every state's different with their rules. As far as representing each other or getting logistics down for opening hostels with zoning, things like this. So then the difficulty of doing that on a national level is a challenge. But with NAHA, which is North American Hostel Association, trade association, this is continental, right? Like, this is Canada, Mexico, right? The whole thing.
Yes, Canada, Mexico, and the United States.
So tell us about this new endeavor and challenge. You just can't stop.
Yes. So NAHA is going to be very interesting to figure out. And we're really depending on our regional board members. So we're working on identifying a board that is separated throughout the U.S. so it can be diverse and know the needs of its region, and also serve as the point of connection. So as we all know, and why we travel in hostels, connection is one of the most important and most valuable things we can get. So if we're going to form an organization, it might as well be connected to its members. So what we're going to try to do is basically get all of these different hostels from different regions of the United States, share resources with them, so serve as an educational tool for them, so things like maybe webinars and stuff going forward, and then have an annual conference where we can all get together. And this annual conference would rotate throughout the U.S. So it would have a different location, hopefully allowing different hostel owners to participate who maybe wouldn't be able to travel to one coast or a different country, but could, attend a conference closer to them. So give people options, but then also allow us to experience one another's hostels. Yeah. Because everyone's hostel is different. So our true goal for NAHA is to connect owners, provide power legislatively in terms of lobbying. Long-term is definitely a goal. Being more on the page of, instead of a hotel lodging association, it'd be great to have a hotel hostel lodging association, something like that, which is definitely, it will take work to get there, but that's definitely a long-term goal. And then just providing education and resources for hostel owners and managers and potential owners too. How do you navigate your system state by state? What are some, tried and true practices? What are things to avoid? It's amazing when you can lay that groundwork. It's going to be really cool to see what hostels can open that maybe were never opened before, because there's sort of a roadmap to do it.
Or save ones from closing. There's a lot of great things that could be done. I think that the opportunity there is so powerful in the strength in numbers, from the marketing, from the legislating, and I think that it's definitely necessary. And I love that you're including very experienced members in the industry within your own younger, generation, because a lot of times you see younger people try to do this and they don't include the people that have been doing it for 30, 40 years. Makes no sense.
It's ridiculous. It's so foolish.
Yeah. So you've got the great experience, and then you're going with the range representation. Now, will there be board members in Mexico or from Mexico and Canada?
Yes, we're hoping so. Right now we have a small steering committee that's made up of, we have West Coast, Central, which is me, and then East Coast, and then we're hoping to grow it. So the board can be expanded from 5 to 13 members, and then there's a board of advisors that will also help advise that. So hopefully it allows us to get a lot of people involved who might not want to dedicate themselves to the work of a board of directors, but still want to be involved. So they could be a board of advisors.
The rotation element too. That's nice too. You do like a 2-year term or whatever, or something like that.
Yeah, which is important. And having diverse ages, experiences, roles too. Like a manager is going to think differently than a strict owner. Those things are important. Yeah. And then also making sure they're in different regions, because like your business model in San Diego, you guys have perfected hosteling down there, and it's amazing. And
well, thank you. That's very nice.
There's so much that's different in Denver too. So there's some things I can borrow, and then some things I'm like, oh, that doesn't apply here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good to have that very diverse range of representatives, I think, and also large hostels and small hostels.
That's true too. Yeah, and we see that on the podcast when we go around and we get to stay at people's hostels and record with them, and you go in and you're like, this is an amazing idea, and it would never work at my place, but this is beautiful. But
I know it's kind of frustrating. You're like, why can't it all work?
Yeah, different pockets and different cities and spaces and countries. It's amazing how it can all change up. I dig that idea.
Came up a lot during this time with everyone being closed down. We were talking about the restrictions of international travel and how we'll see a lot of domestic travelers in the near future until we get over this. We were chatting with Joe Gill recently at the Bon Paul Sharkey Hostel, and talking about coming together as a group and making marketing advertising videos for hostels within the U.S. and then we can target U.S. travelers, try and spread more awareness, and that could be a great inclusion, as we were chatting too about putting it within your association. So I guess you guys put energy into that or thought into that, or do you have any ideas on how we could keep that conversation going?
Yeah, we're starting to talk about that. Nothing formal just yet. I think a big hurdle is going to be creating content and then figuring out how to target these ads. Do you direct everyone to a landing page? Do you link to specific hostels maybe that have invested in the campaign? That would be, so I think there's still a little bit more development on that front, but I think once we have those basic foundation blocks done, you could put together a campaign very easily, especially on social media. And because it is U.S. travelers who are going to be looking to, move between states and whatnot, that gives us a great opportunity, because it's going to be much more affordable to get those people in here, and it's going to be way easier to target them, and it's going to be a great way to educate Americans on hosteling, which I think has been a big hurdle for the industry in general, right? Like people will still, like our hostel has been around for 20 plus years, same location, everything. And people will still be like, oh, there's a hostel in Denver. And I'm like, well, there's 3 actually. And so just having that opportunity to educate U.S. travelers that this is an option for them in this country. They don't just have to think about their abroad trip, staying in hostels. Young people go to Europe and they don't even think twice about booking a hostel. But then in the U.S., they're like, okay, well, what's the Airbnb or hotel? So it's going to be a great opportunity for us to educate them. So I'm thinking that maybe like a pooled fund, I think you mentioned that too, Bobby, in your email, would be a smart way to start and say, okay, we have, 20 hostels who have invested in this campaign. So this is our first round of promotions. And then we can, continuously roll back, because it's not like, let's say June, all the restrictions are lifted and people are free. They're not just going to start traveling. Yeah. It's going to be a gradual incline. So we can accommodate for that and grow the campaign, I think.
Yeah. I think, even just starting out with a grassroots campaign based off of this mini-series, if there's anybody that's interested in collaborating, whether creating the content or putting in the time to build the site, we could, or feel free to comment in our video here, and we'll get some conversation going about it.
Please do.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great thing, and I know we'd be interested in that. I'd love to be able to donate what we can, knowing that by ourselves we wouldn't have enough to make a viable national campaign of marketing and put it all together with the filming. But collectively, once again, it is possible now, as you have, as you said, like 26 hostels in Colorado. There's a lot more hostels than people think. And they would know a lot more about them if we could collectively get that word out there. And I also think your hostel is a great example of a higher grade hostel in the States, that you have hotel standards in that hostel format. So I think you can attract young Americans comfortably, and they can make that transition. Those millennials will try it out, and that's great because then you have broken down the barrier, and now when they come out to California, they'll try out hostels. You know,
Right.
so that's so important, and I always get excited when we see really good operators like yourself open up or get into the industry or continue to work building like you have in the industry, because it makes it very much more possible that they're going to try it out elsewhere when they have a good experience.
I strongly recommend hostels, if they have the opportunity, to do a private room with a shared bathroom setup. Just like 2 rooms, you know, like pick, because that's a great way to introduce someone to hosteling without making them go like full-fledged, I'm staying in a dorm, because sometimes that really freaks people out. But then once they can get past the whole shared bathroom thing, all of a sudden you can't get them out of the community spaces. You're like, seriously, go to your room. And they just like won't leave because they love it. And then they're willing to try, you know, the dorms and things like that.
That's so true. And it's so sad when you see them leave before they can have that experience. But if you hold their hand a bit, like you're saying, like, why don't you try this out over here?
Yeah.
And then we'll get you ready for that. Yeah,
right. It's a good middle road.
Yeah, it's a great way to walk them through the experience so they can actually have the experience. But now, in closing, so the timeline for when we're going to hear about from this NAHA and opportunities to sign up and get involved. What do you think when do you think we're going to hear from that?
So June, stay tuned for some messaging going out in June. If you are interested, you can email the hostelconference@gmail.com.
Nice.
It's our official email for the time being. So just send an email so that we can get you on our messaging list. That would be a big thing. So that when all of that does open up, you can be informed. And even if you're not ready to sign up, you can make a note for the future or things.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sydney, for joining us. This is going to be a great episode, very informative for people from the 11th Avenue Hostel in downtown Denver. And we look forward to your work with NAHA. And I'm very excited that you're involved and got your hands on the wheel there with Jim. And I know you two will do some great things. And we look forward to getting involved with you. And Bob Dyer, thank you so much from ITH Hostels for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sydney.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Anytime. And Jimmy Black from the Hostel Road Trip Podcast signing off one more time. And stay tuned for more great episodes on hostelmanagement.com. Thanks again. All right. Thanks, Sydney.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks again.